Let's bring in the chairman of the powerful House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman Ed Royce of California is here. Chairman, the White House simply trying to avoid picking sides here. It is tough to tell who is our friend and who is our foe these days. But the perception in the region, if you talk to the Jordanians or you talk to the Israelis or the Gulf states, is that the administration is tilting to Iran. And not just tilting to Iran, but empowering Iran in the sense that there will soon be somewhere between $100 billion and $150 billion that will be given to the hands of the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, as a result of this nuclear deal. And when they have this money, the Iranian regime, which is already trying to overthrow the government in Yemen and in Bahrain, recently announced they're going to try to overthrow the Saudi government. This is a grave concern for those in the region. So if this does continue to escalate, as General Zinni alluded to, and this rift between Saudi Arabia and Iran, who does the United States then back? Well, we need, with respect to Iran, we need a policy of more backbone, not a policy of backing down. And what others have seen in the region is the United States continue to retreat face of Iran's provocations, not just in terms of the violation of the sanctions on its ballistic missile program, where it recently tested missiles, or firing missiles off the coast near our carrier, or taking another American hostage, which they recently did. All of these actions by Iran and our failure to enforce the sanctions that would be in place but for the administration's retreat here have created this feeling throughout the region that no one's safe from Iran's ambitions.
Congressman, right before the end of the year, the administration looked like it was going to be imposing new sanctions in response to this ballistic missile development. And then they delayed that. Where is that going? Do you think that's going to happen? And what should Congress do to ensure it does? If you think it doesn't, it won't happen.
And I think that's an excellent question. Here we had the administration insist that the UN sanctions would prevent Iran from developing ballistic missiles for at least 8 years, right? And yet you have this clear violation twice now. And the administration prepares these de minimis sanctions to go into effect at the last minute. Iran pushes back. The administration retreats, having already notified Congress that they were going to go forward and deploy the sanctions. They're now retreating again. So this is what puts the great question mark in the minds of those in Israel and those in the Gulf states and in Egypt.
Well, let me ask this. By the end of the Obama administration, is the U.S. going to be seen in the Middle East as untrustworthy as Iran is? And where does it leave us in terms of having any worthwhile relationship? And does the White House actually want that?
Here's what the region sees. In 2009, you had the people go to the streets in Iran. And, you know, the vast majority of the Iranians had already felt that an election had been stolen. They go to the streets, and instead of siding with the people in Iran, the administration sides with the Ayatollah, and then turns around and supports the Muslim Brotherhood, which is funded by the Iranians in Egypt. So for those who were historically our allies in the region, what they see is not just a tilt to Iran, but they see the messaging that we are fundamentally walking away from those who are trying to counter the power of Iran. And now they see retreat after retreat. As Iran says, death to America. As the Ayatollah says, death to Israel. You can imagine the passions for those for whom those ballistic missiles that are being tested, they're on the border or near the border of Iran.
So what are your next steps? You're the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. What is Congress going to do about this?
So what we did was to back bipartisan legislation, which I got through the House with a vote of 400 to 20 to put additional sanctions on Iran. That was blocked by the administration and the Senate. Now we're going to try again to get some level of enforcement so that the $100 billion does not go into the hands of the Iranian regime, because that will just add to the crisis. They will spend that money probably to try to expand the Shia crescent and try to overthrow neighboring.
You're going to try again. Do you think you're going to get it through the Senate this time?
My hope is that my colleagues on both sides, especially on the Democratic side, will now vote in higher percentages with Republicans.
Chairman, I just want to break in with this breaking news. The BBC right now is reporting the name of the new Jihadi John, which we've been reporting on all morning. You're looking at his picture from a new ISIS video. He is reportedly Siddhartha Dar, a 32-year-old British man who converted to Islam and fled the UK in 2014. What is your reaction to that?
I recently spoke to the foreign in London in their Foreign Affairs Committee about this problem, which they're sharing also with us, of conversions. The foreign minister and the ambassador from France have talked to us also about this problem of conversions to ISIS. We have got to do something about the internet with respect to the ability to recruit. And, you know, as the French ambassador said to us on the Foreign Affairs Committee, look, we can reach consensus that when child predators go on the internet, we take that down. Why can't we reach consensus that when ISIS is recruiting on the internet, we can't have that kind of cooperation?
Yeah.
So again, we need U.S. leadership on this, and we haven't seen a lot of leadership.
So just a little bit more on this, a little bit more about this Jihadi John. He fled the UK with his wife and children after skipping bail in September 2014. He was under investigation for encouraging terrorism and supporting the banned group. So this just breaking. We're going to have more on this in a little bit, but I want to thank you, Chairman Ed Royce, for being here at a very crucial time right now in our country's history.
Thank you very much.